Welcome to episode number 0 of the My Niche is Human podcast. This story begins January, 24th, sometime in 2018. I was struggling to run my current business and start a brand new one. Couldn't really figure out how to get out of my head, how to get out of my own way, call it limiting beliefs, call it my own glass ceiling, creating obstacles that didn't even exist. I was desperate to figure this out. Luckily, a friend of mine told me about a hypnotherapist over in Tampa. I said, fuck it, let's do it. Ain't weird for me, I'll try anything. But on my way in there, I got to thinking about my past with, experience with mental health practitioners and dealing with ups and downs, things like that. And I was a little worried about playing tricks on the hypnotherapist. And what I mean by that is I know that our subconscious is very good, very clever at letting people think something's fine or not, whether it's by projection, misdirection, deflection, all these tactics that our minds play on us and the world around us to kind of hide what's truly deep. So my point is, I was looking to see what's at my source, what was really holding me back, really, really deep down inside. And as I'm walking into this office, I go upstairs and I sit down in the cushy leather couch. It was so typical and comfortable. And this woman across the way looks at me and says, "So, Stephen, what can I help you with?" And instead of being calm, cool, and collective, I pretty much do a massive dump of a verbal word diarrhea dump, all my history with all things mood and mental and feelings and emotions, and probably gave family history all at once. And she looked at me and said, "Oh, so you think you're special?" And it may sound off-putting to you, but it was exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. Because up until then, I'd say from 9th grade up until this moment, I'd been carrying around this secret that I thought if anyone found out, they wouldn't be my friend, they wouldn't date me, they would think I was crazy, all these things. It was my white elephant, it was my demon, it was my, air quotes, burden that I carried. It was my big secret. But when she said this to me, it really was kind of like an emotional bitch slap right in the face. And it was exactly what I needed. It made me realize that I'm not that special. I'm not the only one with these challenges, with these problems, with these things in my mind and in my heart. So then started a year-long journey of getting out of my head, getting out of my own way, and realizing that in this regard, I'm really not that special. So I started to develop the courage to share my secret, first with friends and then with the public. And as I started to tell people, they would just kind of reply with, "Oh, okay, that's cool. Me too." Or, "Yeah, my brother or my sister or my family or my friend dealt with that." And I was almost bewildered. Honestly, my ego was almost like, "Really? You guys don't give a shit? Like, that's it?" And again, it just started to build the courage and the confidence to just be myself. Because when you have that one deep, dark secret and you start sharing it with people and no one really cares, but in a good way, you can start to just be who you are. You feel lighter. There's less of a cloud over your head, even one that you've been so used to carrying, you almost forget about. Right? You guys know what I'm talking about. So with all this, I went from hypnotherapy. I took an improv class over in St. Pete, Florida. That was a blast. I love watching improv, and something that I noticed about the performers was they had no option to be in their head unless they wanted to do bad. But you had to be very present. You had to just say whatever came to mind. You had to be quick-witted. So I took a class last February. It was some of the most fun I've ever had. I recommend it for anybody. I did that. I did some Instagram lives just talking about random shit that I was interested in, all related to mental health. And the courage and the confidence was just building and building, because the more people I told about my deep, dark secret, it almost seemed to lift me up and lift other people up. So that's where I come to what is the common denominator when it comes to mental health. And you could listen to a million podcasts, read a million books, looking for what is the secret sauce, what makes you feel better, or what helps you feel better, if you want to play with the language, what fixes a rainy day, what lifts you up when you're depressed, all these things. And there's a million and one combination. It's whatever works for you. But if I were to say one thing, I would say it's all about permission. And I learned this by studying improv. Because when you're on stage, the more you commit to either being funny or sad or mad or confused, the more you commit to that, you're giving the other person on stage permission to be just as wild and crazy. But that same relationship happens with yourself and with the entire world around you. Giving yourself permission to be who you are, giving other people permission to be who they are, where they're at. Because it's not about being depressed and saying, oh my God, all I want to do is not be depressed right now. Because we begin to learn that resistance and not acknowledging the present moment can add more anxiety and more stress. So if instead we give ourselves permission to be happy, to be sad, to be successful, to air quotes fail, we can talk about that later, I feel is the beginning of a new life. So this podcast is about 4 years in the making. Classic case of imposter syndrome, excuses, lack of focus, all those things. The microphone I'm using is 4 years old. That's ridiculous. But here I am, because I finally gave myself permission to do this, to share myself with you. I feel like I've learned a few tips and tricks along the way, managing mood, managing self, developing habits, all these things. But ultimately, my goal, as I've given myself permission to be who I am, I hope that provides you with permission to hear my pains, sorrows, fucked up stories, but I'm still here and I'm happy and I'm excited. Hopefully that'll give you permission to do the same. So when coming up with the name for this podcast, because this is episode 0 and it's kind of an about deal, why we're here, I was thinking about, you hear other influencers and other marketers talk about developing a niche. And that was one of the other things that held me up from doing this for so long. So when thinking about picking a niche, because everyone said pick or die, I struggled for too long. Do I pick paddleboarding? Do I pick hiking? Do I pick reading books? Do I pick whatever it is? And every time I went to pick one, I was sad that I was leaving another one behind. So instead of picking, and almost part of my attitude was throwing a finger to the whole concept, I said, well, I don't want to pick because my niche is human. I love human behavior. I love thinking about thinking. I love understanding what drives people, what drives us, habits, all those nerdy things. So when all that comes together, why am I here? I'm here because it feels good, honestly. And I'm here with hopes that it will encourage you, give you permission to do whatever you want to do. And in the meantime, all we can hope to do is inspire maybe just one person. Because when you want to figure out how to change the world, the answer is one person at a time. Hey guys, oh my gosh, thank you so much for making it through that. I can't tell you how much of a relief it is to get that demon, that monkey off my back. As I said in my story, this was a very long time coming. I'm really excited to see what comes next. And if I could ask you anything, it's to please get started because this feels pretty damn good. And in lieu of this entire podcast, not to leave you with a just do it kind of anecdote, stay tuned for more episodes. We're going to be diving into the what's, the whys, the hows, understanding what controls your mood, your mindset, your thoughts, your beliefs, all these things. We're going to dissect the shit out of it. So stay tuned. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Take care.